Sit back, relax. Try to maintain your composure. You are about to become connected.
Hello, welcome to the Connect podcast with Sean and Tess, me. Now, we're in our apartment in Tel Aviv in Israel still, but this is our last day of our holiday together. Our last day of the summer holidays, and our last day of being together for a fair while, so until further notice. We were a bit hesitant about starting the podcast now because there is some banging going on next door, and Sean's decided that it's the sound of people smashing chicken breasts. So we're going to go with that. So this podcast is going to be accompanied by the delightful sounds of shrieks of chicken breasts.
Yeah.
So what's that? Sean's drinking this weird beer. It looks like Coca-Cola.
It's a really dark beer.
It actually looks like Coke.
Israeli. It's a Nesha malt. That's what it's called. Nesha malt.
How does it taste? Oh, really? Really?
That sucks. You like it?
Will I? Oh, it
Yeah.
smells weird.
Taste it.
Smells like chicken breast. Oh my god, it's sweet.
Yeah, it's like
That's so weird. What is that?
it's like coffee /
Yeah, it tastes like coffee.
It's like a coffee malt, like beer.
It tastes like sweet coffee.
Do you like it?
But you can really smell the beer as well. So
Yeah.
it's like, no, I wouldn't drink that. But like,
Neither would I.
it tastes. It's not
I
as
thought
gross
it was going to
as
be
feels
like
for
a
you.
stout. A stout.
Did you know it was that colour? Because the bottle's black or brown, so you can't really tell.
Nah, that tastes like fucking balls.
Okay. Yeah, Sean's going to get himself another drink. So,
We're going to do a Q&A. Q&A.
but we've created our own Q's and our own A's, so it's not really interactive. But we just thought we'd go over some interesting sort of questions and topics. Now, the first one is going to be, what does it mean to be enlightened or awake? So, I will answer first since Sean is busy. I think I don't like this term that much because I find that it's often used in a sort of egocentric way by people who think that they're better than others because they are labeling themselves as awake or reach this certain knowledge level of, or self-knowledge or world knowledge, which gives them superiority and means that they know something others don't and are better. So I think a better way to look at this is that the whole term of awake, I think, basically is just kind of like the individual acknowledging how far they've come with their learning and self-knowledge and their growth over in a short period of time. So I think when you sort of get on that path of self-knowledge and sort of figuring out how the world works and decoding the whole thing of how the money system works, and when you start figuring out all those things, you really feel like you've almost woken up because, you look back and you see where you came from and you realise where you are now and you think, wow, I've really only a year ago or something, I still thought that, that politicians had my best interest at heart, or like the money system was normal and we shouldn't question it, and then you feel like your mind is all of a sudden open and awake and like you can see things clearer. So I don't think it's the sort of benchmark position or state of mind which is universal to everybody, and if you only just reach this point, you are past this benchmark which forever you'll never go back to sleep. I think it's just a relative scale of learning which each individual can figure out for themselves and determine how far they have come along that scale. So yes, that's my idea of being awake. Sean, what's your idea of being awake?
My idea of being awake is...
when you wake up in the morning and you see the sun and...
That's right. Have that drink of coffee, jerk off, whatever you need to do. to wake up.
To get out of bed, to find the spirit to get out of bed.
I wonder how many people actually jerk off
As a
every
routine.
morning as a routine.
In the shower, don't guys do it all the time?
I don't know. I don't. Anyway. Look, being awake, I think it's, basically just waking up to the reality of the world that we live in. Because there's a number of realities which people like to live in. For one, there's a mainstream reality. So you believe what the mainstream television tells you to believe, MTV, cable television. You live a life according to a sitcom, basically. You make sure that, you don't deviate outside the social order, which is the main social order. So, you've got your alternative people such as goths or gangs or this or that, but then you've also got the main populace, which is, people who like all the music on the radio and they really enjoy their 2.5 Men and everything that happens on your main TV stations. And, they get their news, if they get any news from things like Current Affair and 60 Minutes. And, I'm not saying that some of the stuff on there isn't accurate and true, but a lot of it's manufactured to program a human being into being a nicely well-rounded consumer, which can make sure that the economy and make sure that the people at the top continue to get paid the big bucks and nothing gets deviated from the norm so much. They do say that there's something like, I don't know, I have to Google it, I think it's 7% or 17%, 7% of people can't be programmed in the mainstream. So 7% I think of people just cannot be told this is the way that you should live your life. And this is where you get the people who are really the revolutionaries, really the people who aren't good at following orders, really the people who are nearly even demonised by society.
Yeah, they're shunned from society because they're pegs that aren't able to be pushed into the circle.
That's right.
The square hole. Wait, round hole. Wait.
I mean, you can say it's any of the great visionaries such as like Gandhi or but these are John Lennon and all these people but it's mainly just the people who possibly have had a deviation of the normal workings of society. So maybe they've had a job where their bosses have treated them like absolute pieces of dirt, and they've suddenly woke up and go, surely we can do this a better way. Surely I don't need to be treated like this. Or
so you
maybe
mean something has given them a reason to look at things a different way?
Yeah, so, or that too. Or, they've had an extraordinary thing happen to them, or they've met an extraordinary person which has pushed them on a different course or something along that effect. But usually it's something, extraordinary happening in their life, or them having an environment which gives them the option of being an extraordinary person. Now, I'm not saying that they're better than everyone else, but they're definitely minds work in a different sort of context to what the people who demonise them do. So if you can't understand someone, and that's a part of the process of waking up. Waking up is definitely being able to have empathy for everyone on their different paths, and not demonise anyone for thinking differently, or not really caring if anyone cares what they're doing in their life, or but it's an understanding and an empathy for things happening around them. So so such as understanding why certain news outlets tell people certain things and why others tell them something different. Understanding why there is racism, understanding where religion came from and why it's in society, understanding. So it's really asking the questions that you're not taught to ask when you're in school, or when you go to church, or when you are in university, or when you are and I'm not saying that none of those things aren't useful, but it's really asking the questions that no one else asks, well, some people ask, but the questions that are hard to find the answers for, and that really takes strength of character, which usually comes from something extraordinary happening in your life, because you have to deal with shit deal with the harsher reality of life than what a lot of other people do.
Yeah.
You have to deal with an abusive parent or something, or like an abusive boss or something. You have to really dig down deep and find yourself and ask the tough questions of, is everything that I've been told right or real?
Mm-hmm.
And is there another way to do this? And if there is, I'm going to find it.
Yeah. So it's sort of like a river current flowing the same way. And, everybody, most people are just sort of going with the current and not really alert, active, interactive participants who sort of are themselves autonomous. They're kind of just going, they're influenceable so much so that they don't actually pave their own way in any way. They just go with whoever pushes them whichever way, just like a river.
Yep.
But then something in their life, they come into something which causes them to break free from that current and be able to step out of the river, have a look over and try and actually see society from the outside and actually see it for what it is rather than be a inside the matrix and try and because you can't see really what's going on from inside there. You need to be able to look at it in a different way, from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I have we have talked about this briefly, myself and Tessa, in private time, and we came up to the conclusion it's very hard to, we think. I mean, we've only really had a couple of examples of where this could where we could have possibly had some first-hand experience with this, but once you are shown the reality of the world, now that big business, corporations, politicians, mass media, they've got agendas through trying to manipulate you either as a consumer, as a viewer, as a money-making machine, as something other than a human with a soul and has a right to life, has just as much right to life as them, because if that was the case, then the world would be structured a lot differently. So, once you are privy to the knowledge and you have understood it, and you try and go back to the mainstream, because you're like, no, this is too much. It's sort of like Neo taking the pill and taking the pill and then realizing that reality is not what he thought it was. It's completely different, and then he nearly bursts, his brain nearly explodes. We find that it is destructive. We think that it's destructive for the individual once they have been privy to that information to try and reject it.
Definitely, because it's completely destroying yourself from within. Because once you realize something, and then you realize it's the truth, and if it's so hard that you can't take it or continue down that path, and you reject it, then that truth will never go away. You are conscious of the fact that you are going against truth, and that will eat away at you. You can't. It's like, that is. I've heard it described really well.
It's like, I want to stay asleep. I don't want this. This is too much. I have to think about too much shit. I can't just go and buy a dress and make myself look pretty. I just, I've got to think, why is this salesman being so nice to me? Why is this happening? But it was this much this week. Why isn't this much this week? And, it's so many questions that you got to ask. And, it gets easier. It fucking gets easier as you go further on. And then you just start laughing at the place. You just start... Everything that you do in everyday life starts to be fucking humorous in some way, because you just see through it and you're like, are you fucking joking me? Are you that much of a cunt?
A lot of the time, though, now, every now and then, every couple of months or so, something happens in the news or the media, or you see something in the world around you and you're just like, oh my God, we are living in a fucking movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think the stuff that goes on is so crazy or fucked up, or just I can't believe that this is actually happening. Like, for example, Obama winning a World Nobel Peace Prize. To me, that is so crazy.
It's
that
money. It's
I
just
can't.
money.
It's like we're living in a movie. It's like I always think that we're living in a simulator, and the people who created the program are just laughing at us and going, tweaking this here and tweaking that there, and going, let's fucking see what they do when this happens.
How long before they fucking revolt mercilessly? Because this is they've had enough chance so far, and we haven't done shit. But yeah, you're right. No, it is crazy sometimes. Essentially, just for the, simple, non-aggression rule, we're brought up to believe that we shouldn't murder anyone, and if we do, we're going to get locked up for forever, or like for as long as possible. So, you know, murdering one person is wrong, but murdering 100,000 people or 1 million people, that's just foreign policy. That's just war. Don't worry about that. You know, that won't come to you. We're protecting you. So, like, you know, if we just go and bomb that third world country, no one will give a fuck about that. You know, you will see what we're told on the media, and like, I mean, it's a crazy, crazy world we live in. And like, I mean, it only took me till like the age of maybe 2 years ago before I actually asked that question of myself. Because you know it. Oh yeah, war's bad as fuck. Yeah, yada yada. But then, you know, you go, hold on, I'm not allowed to murder anyone. What the fuck can we bomb, like, you know, and kill 1.3 million civilians in Iraq? What? Hold on. What the fuck is going on here? You know, why is that alright? And why do we glorify soldiers and politicians who are fucking, you know, steadfast in their resolution of freedom and fucking democracy and just kill 1.4 million people? Yet if like one of my family members or one of my sisters or someone like that, something extremely personal happens to me, like, you know, my girlfriend gets raped or something, I can't kill the person who did that. That makes no sense.
No, it makes no sense.
It's absolute crap.
And it's completely inconsistent rules, and it's about time we started having the same moral rules for everybody around the world, no matter where you grew up, what country you're in, whatever. We should have the same rules. I mean, we're taught when we're young, don't steal, don't hit, don't hurt people. And then when we get older, we're like, oh, okay, hang on, but it's okay to steal when you're the government, and it's okay to kill people when you're the government. Cool. All right. Yeah. Got that straight. But for me, I'm not allowed to do those things because...
And then a lot of people are like, oh, just watch what you say, and then you're like, fucking, hold on. So they're allowed to do that, and then I have to watch what I say? I can't even have my
Who says watch what you say?
Oh, no, look, I think generally speaking, I think a lot of our parents, the generation that's above us, like
but saying watch what you say is just an admission that they're doing something wrong and you can't talk about
it.
Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, but our parents did come up with, like, through the, you know, the Second World War and that, sort of like, don't say the wrong thing or they'll just fucking lock you up, you know what I mean?
So they're just admitting that their power is unreasonable.
Definitely. You know, but
that's
like...
alright, I can continue having the conversation with them then. So watch what you say. Oh, why? Because they'll come and fucking lock me up for no reason? Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. We both agree that the whole thing's fucked.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, well, second part of that question, though, was... what does it mean to be awake? And what does it mean to be enlightened? Because often those words are used in similar situations. But so I think the word awake is more of a practical knowledge of the world around you, and you know, often that can go hand in hand with the spiritual awakening as well.
Yeah.
So I think people often, the spiritual awakening / enlightenment part of it is like a clarity of mind of who you are and how that relates to the world around you. So I think it's kind of like a purification of all the bullshit that your sort of thoughts and mind and all the sort of bad habits your thought process have gotten into over years of bad thinking or like possibly abuse or whatever. But you know how your sort of mind has got little knots in it that have to be unraveled. And I think enlightenment is when you unravel those knots. And those can be done sort of through meditation, you know, where you sort of just, you clear them all out and you get sort of more of a clear path between your subconscious and your conscious mind, so that everything is, you feel like you're more harmonized with everything, and you know, your thoughts start to become more purified and clear with your instincts, and then your thoughts are more clear with your words because you really believe what you say, and then your actions follow. So it's like that old saying, one of my favorite quotes is like, what you think, what you say, and what you do is in harmony is when you achieve happiness.
Yeah.
So I think that is sort of the enlightenment thing, is when you feel like all your levels of yourself, your subconscious and your conscious and your ego, and then your actions are all really in harmony.
Yeah. I think you're right there. And look, enlightenment to me is simply being able to tap into your consciousness, local and non-local. So tap into the consciousness through meditation, and through making sure that you can control your mind in situations. Because I think being enlightened is being able to control your mind as well as you can in that possible situation. So you're not getting, because as soon as, your heart rate goes up, things get blurry, things get fuzzy, you do stupid shit. As soon as you're, if you're getting stressed, if you're getting, overworked, if you don't have your downtime, if your life isn't in balance, then being enlightened is, I think, being able to control your mind, as well as you can, so that you can make, conscious decisions as well as unconscious decisions, in the right form. And that always comes to be through, being kind, considerate, and being happy, because, happiness is obviously, the basis of everything. If you're not happy, you treat other people badly. If you're not happy, then you treat yourself badly. If you're not, your environment becomes shit if you're unhappy.
Yeah,
basically.
But I think,
and that's, obviously happiness there's superficial happiness, and then there's also, materialistic happiness, and then there's.
I think happiness is when, or just on a side note, happiness is when, like what I said before, you're. What you think, what you say, and what you do in harmony, because you are living your values. I think that is happiness, and like on a long-term scale, you're living your values. So your joy that comes through satisfaction of living in a way that you believe is true to yourself and integrity. But I think what you're saying is right with control over your mind, and I think that like links in with what I was saying, because control over your mind, I think, is unraveling all those knots in there, because those knots, when you've got those bad habits or like unresolved issues in your mind or unclear little parts in your brain, they are what control your mind when you do get into those situations of hot and heavy situations. If the more you leave those knots in there, they're going to take over the system sometimes. The more you work on those knots, and you through self-knowledge and understanding where you are and why you are the way you are, where you came from, you unravel those knots and you gain control over your mind. Definitely.
Turning your negatives into a positive. Into positives. That's true. And I mean, you can, there's a perfect call sign to see someone who's enlightened, and that is that they don't give the generic response to questions or conversation that you have with them, or questions you ask with them. They give the response of that, that little light goes off in your head and goes ding, and then you're like, holy shit, why didn't I think of that before? Because this person has been through the scenarios in their head a number of times, or they've been through a number of different thought processes which lead them to cut through all the bullshit, and they just get straight to the point that matters. And usually in the particular scenario relating to the dialect that you're having with them at that time, they're able to understand you and them in a way which is the best conversation to have and the best answer to give at that time. So, definitely. I mean, it's a very, very conscious notion of going, hold on, this person's got their shit together.
Exactly. So the consequences, or the symptoms, or the things that you'll see in your life eventuating if you are so-called enlightened, or what you would feel that you're enlightened, I think, is when you can connect with other people on a deeper level, and you can really notice, you go through life, and most of the time it's quite difficult to find that connection. But when you meet those people, you do realise, you go, oh, okay, cool, he was right there with me in the conversation. He was able to connect with what I was saying in the moment and come up with answers that in the moment were true to his feelings and thoughts, rather than just going through the same motions of the same templates of answers and questions. When you meet someone, it's just like you've got these just a few sentences, templates that you use, and you just chuck in words in here and there just to match with whatever the situation is, rather than actually connecting with the moment itself and coming up with true and honest answers. And I think that is one of the consequences of being enlightened and having enlightened interactions with people. Yeah. So like that guy Kevin we met in I just remember meeting this guy. We went on the West Bank tour with in Jerusalem. And he was just instantly, it was such an easy conversation, and it was so honest. And I just felt like, I've known this guy for ages. He was so nice.
No, he's ready.
Not
he was at the start of it, and he'll be the first to admit he was at the start of his sort of awakening period. But after that,
he might not. He might have information that we don't. He might
definitely. I hope
who
so.
Knows?
I hope everyone does. But he was. he was the first to admit, he goes, this is why I went overseas to try and find out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, and he goes, I figured it out. He goes, I want to try and help change the world for the better, and you go, perfect, and that's the first
It's
thing.
fantastic to see, because you could see that he was, at the very start of feeling passionate about, I really want to change the world, and it's that, I think you're right, that is the beginning of going, I have to figure out how the world works first.
You have to figure out how the world works, but there's no being enlightened or awakened without wanting to help change it for the better. It goes hand in hand. So with great, power, information and, power comes great responsibility, and when you are, I think, nearly in a way, when your environment or when the universe, or whatever you want to call it, this is about as spiritual and religious as I get, when the universe or the environment chooses you, that you're ready to wake up, okay, then you have been lucky enough to go on this treacherous journey,
or unlucky enough.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing, and this is the beauty about it. It's like tough love from the universe. It's sort of like, you know what? I think you're ready and you're strong enough to undergo this, because you're going to have to fight all your friends. You're going to have to. You're going to be lucky to get people who think the same way as you. Especially
you're going to be lonely.
You're going to be lonely, especially at this point of the world, and what we need from these unique individuals who come and try and activate the immune system of humanity, going, the environment's in desperate need of help, and there's people starving and this and that, and the people in power aren't doing anything to fix this. They're not doing anything. They just, this one gets in, that one gets in, it doesn't fucking matter, it's all the same. And and this is why the environment and the universe are picking people like myself. This is I feel like I'm being modest saying it, but this has been the hardest thing I've had to go through in my life, trying to get to the bottom of this shit. But this is why people like me and Tess do what we do, and this is why we try and spend a message and talk about shit on podcasts like this, because
we feel obligated now. Not that we don't want to. I love this. But
we are absolutely obligated by the universe to fucking make sure that we try and get this right for future generations. And for
obligated,
ourselves.
not because there's a universal rule that if you have this information you have to. It's more that obligated in that I can't help it, that my emotions have reacted with the information that I've been given, and my emotions are telling me that I am furious with certain things, and that I would like to participate and put my 2 cents in to try and make things the way I believe they should be. I think that it is more an obligation to yourself rather than to anybody else to satisfy those desires and urges and frustrations within you that are reactions to the new information that you've gotten and that you've processed within yourself. Because that's all we ask really from everybody, is that you don't have to. There's no right or wrong. It's all about people's opinions and true, genuine feelings about things that are important, and we need people to speak up about that, and that is your obligation. Is you're obligated to express yourself and your opinion, especially in times like this when it matters the most, because we need people to tell everybody that we believe that what this person's doing is wrong or whatever, because if you don't, then it's right. It's every time a good person sits idle, evil is being able to be done.
Definitely.
So
anyway, look, as much as that might sound like a nice thing to be a part of, I want to be awake, I want to be enlightened, that's great, it sucks and it's really difficult, so it's not as easy as it sounds. So
I really don't feel like I would never say I'm enlightened or awake. I love this. For me is just like a hobby. I really enjoy it.
No, it is. No, it becomes part of you. It becomes, and that's what is needed. And a good way to get onto this journey is take some psychedelic drugs with people who are enlightened and awake. And then you'll really see what
or just by
the world
yourself.
can offer. No.
You can do it by yourself, and with the trees will tell you.
Yeah, sure they will. The trees have eyes.
Oh my god. Oh yeah.
Anyway, let's go.
All right, the next question that we have is,
how much do you jerk off each day?
And does that contribute to climate change?
Yeah.
Everyone's going to stop jerking off because
the friction contributes to global warming.
Semen is the new greenhouse gas.
Yeah, I know. It dries and creates a noxious fume which fucking puts holes in the ozone layer.
Okay, so the next question is: should we be worried about climate change?
I say yes.
So obviously there are many things in the environment that can affect the human experience in a negative way, and we should be worried about all of those. Obviously. So, and we should be trying to minimise all of them. So there are many, many problems like that, though. So, for example, war is a huge environmental issue that's just goes through ridiculous amounts of resources. Like the amount of oil that's used in the Iraq War, Iraq War, used more oil in, was it one day than India used in one day? The whole of India used in one day?
Look that up, because that's a really interesting fact. More... Yeah.
I'll look that up.
Anyway, so, look, I mean, there are a lot of issues to talk about. And, a lot of climate scientists, people who are much better qualified than us to talk about this shit, say that this is the biggest threat mankind will face, civilization will face, because mankind, then we might be alright and we might have, one or two people left after climate change has run its course, but, civilization has faced in our history. So, I mean, look, at the end of the day, look, I don't know. There is information on both sides which I can probably, with my limited knowledge of anything to do with the climate, or anything to do with the 200 or 300 years we've got of hard data, rather than going off rock samples or something like that, then it seems like the planet is definitely warming up, or not even warming up, but there's I'm just reading an article today that in America it's like negative 40. And it might possibly get to, in Canada, negative 45 to negative 50 or something. And in Australia, it's positive 50. In the past 10 years, I've been really giving a shit about any sort of climate or anything like that. I've never heard of anything really going over 42 in Australia, 43. And I'm never really hearing of anything, go a negative 40. And I'm sure there's been cases and all the rest of it, but it's just crazy. Negative 50 to positive 50. I mean, which one would you like? I know I've been in 43 degree heat before, and it's pretty fucked up. Pretty fucking brutal. I'm sure.
Can't find the fact. Fuck. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I think it's just the amount of oil used in the Iraq War is more in one day is more than India uses in one day. The whole of India, something crazy like that. So fuck. So I mean, there are many problems that we've got, and I think the thing with climate change is there's obviously a lot of there is a lot of mixed data, and the thing about climate change and climate processes is they're so difficult to even figure out. There is a lot of the science that we don't know because it's such a complicated process. And because climate happens over such a long period of time, we don't really have that reliable evidence and data for the previous, things that have gone on in the past. So it's very difficult. It's also very difficult to predict the future and how things work, because the way that the climate processes work, there's, it's so hard to predict how a certain increase in something could change something else, because there's so many factors. And I think there are a lot of tipping points as well, runaway effects and all that sort of thing. But I think the main thing is that people jerking off. Exactly, it's a massive problem, especially around days like Valentine's Day.
Definitely, that's a huge problem. Girlfriends' birthdays.
So you've got firstly the information is contentious anyway, and then secondly, we haven't yet seen the effects really that much yet. So all the things that they say that are going to happen,
we've seen.
Not bad enough though.
We've seen bullshit. You didn't live in New York or the Philippines.
So let me say though.
We've had three. We've had Katrina.
But you don't know that they're from climate change. So what I'm trying to say is that.
But in history, we've had 300-year storms of what they're saying is a 100-year storm. Not that I've been around for 100 years, so how the fuck would I know? We've had 3 in the past 7 years.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely some evidence and some data that we can put into
the biggest
what's
ever
going
on
on.
record. The biggest ever on record. The
Great,
Philippines.
I understand what you're saying.
The most powerful ever on record. I'm being alive for that, and it sounds like it's fucking fucked up.
Yeah. So I think the main problem is with this whole climate change stuff is that we can never actually know for sure what is making these things happen? Of course, we can come up with hypotheses and we can sort of say, yeah, that's likely that this is happening, but it's sort of like the terrorism thing. It's sort of like this label that we've put there, and you can sort of make hypotheses that this person's terrorizing this, but it's kind of like an enemy that will never be defeated as long as we're putting pollution into the air. It's like this constant shadow that will be a burden.
As long as there's corporations making massive profit from burning fossil fuels and coal, then yes, no, it's never going to go away, and it will never get the right evidence out.
Yeah, I just mean that in that, I'm not saying I'm on either side. I'm just saying that in that way, it kind of seems like one of those little phantom, devils that are haunting humanity and that have been placed on us by authorities who are using it, whether it's true or not, whatever, but they've seen this potential to be used to further their agenda, or at least take advantage of the population. So
definitely, and I think if there's one thing that we can fucking guarantee, corporations will exploit any situation that they can make a lot of money off. Now, if they can see that they can make a lot of money from fucking climate change, then they will exacerbate the facts that climate change is happening because they can make money from carbon credits or some shit like that. Okay, so the fact that big business makes massive amounts of money either way, like whether there's climate change or not, is not an argument to have for the reason why climate change is or is not real. You only have to try and look at the unbiased evidence that we have, and the unbiased evidence that we have states that like 95 to 97% of climate scientists agree that it is climate extremes are man-made. Mm-hmm. And that is all I can read, and that's a main point I can take out of all of it. Now, it's not scientists' jobs to agree on anything. It's their job to disagree if the facts present themselves. But when it's like 90% and above, I've got to think that the scientists I don't think that there's a conspiracy with 10,000 scientists or whatever, fucking thousands of scientists all around the world in all different countries. I don't think you could pay that many people off. So I think the facts are the facts, and I mean, yeah, sure, there's conspiracies behind big business making money if climate change is or is not real, whatever.
Not just big business, the people in power.
Big time, big people in power. Fucking Smurfs, golems, and fucking beetroots as well. Next.
Anyway, so
let's go on to the next point. Look, at the end of the day, I can talk a lot about political systems and hunger and third world this and that, but when it comes to climate and the science behind it, I don't have too much of a fucking clue. So I've only got to go on what the experts tell me, and the experts seem to have come to a consensus that it's man-made. So I've got to try and think that they've got more of an idea about what's going on than I do.
Yeah. So, well, I think another way to look at it is actually just to sort of see what it's going to take to minimise damage and what it's going to take to just adapt to the damage.
Yeah,
I think either the solution is probably worth considering, because from the data we've seen, I think we're definitely going to see a 2 degree rise, which global average temperatures, which is enough to be catastrophic to many environmental systems apparently, and we're on the way to becoming a 4 degree increase. Yeah. So the thing is that to stop all this completely is going to take a massive amount of change, and also suppression of there's developing countries that are just trying to come out of their poverty and start using electricity to get what they need to live in that. So, I mean, how much death is it going to cause to try and stop this rather than we should just be looking at what we can do to adapt to it, adapting.
I think the scary thing about it is, the most scary thing on the final note of this climate shit, the most scary thing about it is that, let's say tomorrow or something, we get the final word from the scientists, it's definitely man-made. The most scary thing about this is which I hope we never get that, is because I have an extremely limited doubt. No, that's not the right way to say it. I absolutely do not think that human beings have the power to change, even if we know the end is near. And that is the most scary thing about this climate thing for me. If it gets to a point where we say the evidence is irrefutable, if we don't stop burning greenhouse gases, then the planet, civilization is going to be at an end, then I don't think that we will stop. I honestly think that we have a serious flaw in our human behaviour, human nature, and that's probably got to do with the...
So do you think we'll do something to the point we won't survive?
Definitely,
I think that
definitely.
I think that we can adapt to whatever we do. It's just a matter of how many people are going to die in the
Exactly,
process.
exactly. And the scary thing about it is that even if someone had the definitive answer now, they would still be happy with just a small portion of the population surviving and maintaining the economic system as it's going.
The problem is
we'll just maintain business as usual. We'll make sure all the same people are getting rich, even though we know that there's going to be massive amounts of death in the process.
So the question is, how many people are going to have to die before we fix this?
Yeah.
And is that something that we're ready to care about? Because the only way that we can stop climate change in the right way and stop emissions is if we start caring about all the developing countries as well. And if we're going to be replacing, fossil fuel technology with clean energy in our countries, in developed countries, then we're going to have to do so and provide all this stuff and all this technology for the developing countries as well at the same time. Otherwise, we're just going to kill them off in the process of trying to cut down emissions. Either way, we have to come together and help each other to fix this. But it's not, but if we don't, then there'll be people survive, but it'll just cost a lot of life.
It'll just be the rich. Anyway, next.
Next question is, what is the Illuminati and the New World Order?
We're going to just touch on this one, seeing that we're in the middle of Israel and I'm afraid.
But no, the other day was New Year's Day and New Year's Eve, and we saw some news on our Facebook feed and the rest of local newspapers in Australia and around the world.
The rest of the world would have seen it too.
Around the world, that in Sydney, our home city in Australia, their New Year's Eve fireworks events, they're huge. How many million people see them?
1.6 million people watching, but it's the most watched fireworks in the world.
And for this event, they have to have a theme. They always have a different theme. Last year was a butterfly, was it? Or
butterfly and lips and...
Oh, because we've got a really cool... They've got a really cool bridge, and they sort of have an image on the bridge. But this year, it was the all-seeing eye. Yeah. Like the all-seeing eye, not just like an eye that looks like, No, this was the all-seeing eye.
Yeah.
And that was the emblem that they had. And it was the whole theme. And it was called Shine, as in shine, like illuminate.
Well, they had illuminate written underneath the bridge. Illuminate, which was sort of, you could probably relate the word illuminate to Illuminati. I'm not too sure, but some people might do the math and figure that out. But then the all-seeing eye, and the eyeball moved around, and
like a big brother eye
was watching everyone.
It was fucked up.
And then it also the eye changed to a big blue, outer eye, and then a round pupil in the middle with the letter I.
A capital I.
A capital I.
And it was exactly the same font as this I that Sean and I saw on this hotel emblem that's in Tel Aviv here. The nicest hotel here.
There's a few similarities.
Intercontinental. It's like the Illuminati Hotel in Tel Aviv.
David Intercontinental, so King David.
The exact same I.
Yeah, weird. There's a few similarities there, and I'm not going to go into it too deeply because I don't really look at symbols. I leave the symbols to other people. Some people think that, these people are in control of everything and all the rest of it. I don't know. I haven't seen enough evidence for me to be able to think. Once again, my generic response for this is that, it's the same as government, okay? If these people are in control, they are simply a function of the system. The economic system creates people having power over other people, and if you think government is the final level of power, I think you're sorely mistaken.
I think that...
once there's a government, there's going to be another, secret operation above government, then there's going to be another one above that.
Exactly, I disagree. So I think that...
So,
exactly what you're saying there, and I disagree that money is the thing. I think money is definitely the driving motivation for us plebs and us sheep, for sure. It's what gets us all trapped in this system. But for the people in control of the system who created it and created these farms of all of us, their motivations, I think, are way deeper than just money. I think it goes just pure power, and I think religion, or at least religious ideas, for example.
Money gives you all that. Money gives you all that.
No, but I think money is just neither here nor there, like a symptom of their position.
No,
I think you think money is a stronger motivator than power and religious ideas.
Without money, there is no power. There is no power without money.
Well, no, well, whatever. I mean, I don't. Yeah, sure. It's a helpful tool to help them gain power, but at the end of the day, I really think that because even if they have all their money, they still have agendas and they still want to do this, want to do that. So it's not just about money. Money is just a symptom of that, or a necessary tool to help that. I think, and the Illuminati goes back thousands of years, and it's almost a religious idea. I think.
Well,
so
look, yeah,
it's about.
That's what people
It is
say.
a religious idea. It's about fulfilling prophecies, and they think that they have a destiny to do this or that with the earth, and so I think that
Yeah, but
I
if
think
there was no
there's
money,
definitely
then
deeper things apart from money.
If there was no money, then that would mean
Yeah,
fuck
sure.
all.
The money thing is obviously not helping things. I'm saying
Then
it's a tool.
that would mean fuck all, because who would be doing anything for them if there was
That's
no money?
exactly the same reasons why government is helping people do what they want, because we're sanctioning these people to have control over us.
Through
We're
money.
allowing them
Through money.
Yeah, exactly. Fine, money, government, it's all helping them. Sure.
It's just money.
And we all sanction.
Just money.
Yeah, no, money can help them, sure, but they've still got motivations. I'm talking about their motivations for it. Money helps them get what they want.
I can have all the motivations in the world, but if I can have the motivation to fucking take down the Eiffel Tower, but if I've got no money, I'm not going to be able to do it.
I agree with you. It's the same reason why government shouldn't be there, because it helps these people get what they want through making laws, and we actually sanction them legally and give them permission to do these things.
If you take away money, then government wouldn't be a problem. No, if you take away money, then there will be no problem with government, because they're only, it's a consensus. Everyone's like, oh, okay, they're just doing it.
If you take away government, there'll be no problem with money either.
Rubbish.
Nah, if you take away government, there'll be no problem with money.
Rubbish, that's bullshit. There's no way if it would be worse than what it is
But
now.
if you take away government, people are free to do whatever they want.
Yeah, that's right.
So what do you expect?
Exactly.
Not let people do whatever they want.
And
you want to tell people what to do.
And the people with all the money, they can pay heaps of people to fucking have guns and surround them, and then fucking they can rule other people.
Yeah, okay. Alright, whatever. So, if you let all the corporations that are massive now do whatever they want, sure, they've got huge power from all the forceful regulations that have been able to use at our expense to get where they are now. So, maybe, but that's not the right way, I don't think.
Oh no, it's definitely the right way. Get rid of money and there's no problem.
But you can't force people to not use money.
I'm not. They'll come to
You just get rid of any force. You get rid of any laws and control of other people, and you let people sort out what they want to do with their life. If you want to live somewhere where you don't use money, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. But, once people come to the conclusion that they don't need
So you've got to let them come to that for themselves.
That's right.
You can't create a system.
I am. I'm not concerned. I'm sure everyone will figure out when it's time.
Yeah, but you can't create the system like that. You have to
you
let
can.
them... How?
You
You can't force people to do what they want. If you want to make
No, I'm not forcing anyone to do it. I'm not saying you can flick your finger and then fucking everything changes overnight. I'm just saying that, there will be a society that gets built, and the society will turn into a big city, and they won't be using money, and everyone will go, look how happy they are. Bang, done.
Great, that would be awesome if that would happen, if that was worth it.
Of course
if that happened and that was awesome, that worked, that would be great.
No government, no, and not. I'm not talking about communism. I'm not talking about socialism. I'm not saying redistribute wealth or anything like that. I'm saying an anarchist society with no rulers and no motivation for money, utilising technology to create abundance rather than scarcity.
Yeah, so we need to get rid of government and money.
First.
And then, but no, you just told me that it needs to be voluntary. So that's firstly, that's government. That's get rid of government. Because you can't force it. So you have to get rid of government before you can have this voluntary no money society.
But if you get rid of money, then the government wouldn't exist. Because no one would be doing anything for the government if they're not getting paid.
But they still have guns. And we've still given them permission to rule over us.
Do you honestly think, how long would an army last if they're not getting paid?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what the fiat currency is the only reason why they have so much money. Because they're just printing money.
Then stop paying
But
tax.
it's our...
We're sorry. We're sorry about that. We're sorry about that. I think we had a battery malfunction, and we just stole batteries out of the remote and put them back in for your convenience. I hope you're all.
I'm not in the mood to talk to Sean anymore because I've just expressed to him that it frustrates me that we don't listen to each other properly and we just keep going over the same fucking arguments and no one's listening.
It's not.
You're not listening.
Tess, I know your point of view exactly.
Yeah, but then why are you saying, let's create this society without a government and no money, and then you're saying, no, we don't need to get rid of government, we need to get rid of money first. But you just admitted that it's an anarchist society and needs to be voluntary before people actually come and enter it. So,
obviously there's a generational transition period where we need to have, a good 50-year period where we need to go from the current society to that society. So, that's a big gap of, how are we going to get there? And I think we should get rid of the money first and then the government will follow. You think we should get rid of government
but your
first?
town that you want to build are you going to build it with government and no money and let people come
build a
and
town
then
from scratch.
Okay, but your idea You're telling me that your idea that you want people to attract to voluntarily has no government and no money.
No,
or doesn't have a government and doesn't have money.
We choose to do it. We go, oh, look, we don't need money. We're going to cooperate now. We're not going to need to work as an individual.
You're not listening to me again. You're not listening to what I'm saying.
I am.
I just proposed to you a thing and you're not answering the question.
I am answering the question.
You're not.
I am, definitely. I just answered it.
If people are voluntarily going to flock to this new place, does it have a government and no money? Or does it not have a government and no money?
They're already in the place, okay, and then we realise everything is too fucked. So then if someone comes up with the idea, let's try and do things without money, because that means that would get rid of the government and do all this sort of stuff. So, okay, cool. So
but you can't do what you want with the government there, because they will put the gun to your head to use money.
No, they won't. What are they going to lock up?
You have to pay taxes.
What are they going to lock up that many people? They can't lock up that many people. What do you mean? You're talking about whole populations. Don't fucking...
Yeah, well, then we can do whatever we want if you're going to talk about everybody standing up.
I can guarantee you, if there's that many people standing up, the army's not going to shoot down their own fucking civilians.
Yeah, well, you're talking about revolution of where there's that many people.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, whatever happens, everything needs to become voluntary.
What happened in Egypt? Imagine what happened in Egypt, but that happened without money. 33 million people on the street going, no,
whatever happens, it has to happen voluntarily. Yeah. Whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it's no money or money. Yeah. Whatever it is has to happen voluntarily.
Absolutely.
That means without government. That's all that I'm saying. Yeah. Okay, I don't care if it includes no money or money, whatever. Okay. But it has to be voluntary, and that means no government. So, firstly, let's get rid of the government.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. The government can say, can everyone please volunteer for us not to use money, and we're going to stay where we are. And then we'll go, okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea. No, you can do that. There's no problem there. It doesn't mean you don't have to do things voluntarily with no government.
So the government are going to command people to voluntarily do something?
They're just going to go, we think this is the best way to go. Okay, because this money thing's completely fucking us up. Alright, so let's everyone now, here's the pros, here's the cons, but the pros far outweigh the cons. So let's everyone now cooperate instead of fighting each other, and let's fucking, make the society work without money.
Okay, so you're saying that we can,
but no one's
find a way to not use money with having the government there?
Of course, that's stupid. Of course. There's absolutely no reason why that can't work. There's no reason, And you can do the same. No one's going to put a gun to your head and say you don't have money. People are going to put a gun to your head and say you need money, but you don't need money. That's completely, of course it's voluntary. But once again, it's got nothing to do with redistributing wealth at all. Okay? It's just got to do with we're going to work together rather than against each other. Because that's what capitalism is, individualism. It's not cooperation. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the finer points. What's the next point? Let's move on. How did we get into that? We're talking about climate change, weren't we? And what were we talking about?
New World Order.
New World Order. Let's move on from that.
Anyway, I don't think that's what... Anyway.
It's not. Yeah.
Sean and I disagree on a few things, and I'm fucking sick of talking about it.
And please, disagreeing is a good thing. But as
long as I really fucking hate doing these podcasts when I'm getting emotional and yelling and shit and getting frustrated.
Yeah.
I really hate it.
It makes for good listening, but...
People don't want to listen to us rambling on about and yelling at each other, and they're probably listening going, they're not making any sense, they're going over the same points over and over, they're not listening to each other, the conversation isn't even...
I can guarantee you the majority of people listening to this, the vast majority of people listening to this, have not thought of that shit before. So we can go over this shit over and over and over until they know that we're going over and over, because they haven't listened to it, they haven't talked about this. We've talked about this so many fucking times and we still can't quite figure it out. It takes a fucking long time to figure this shit out. How it could work, why it would work, why it wouldn't work. What's the next topic?
Differences between war today and war in the past.
Well, the war today is much more painful than it was in the past because of the internet. It makes it much harder to propagandise a nation. Because of alternative news sources, it makes it much more difficult to, sugarcoat death and destruction as it used to be, back before the Vietnam War. So, I think it's a very strategic game these days. You don't have to be strategic on the battlefield. You have to be extremely strategic in the media and deceive everyone. Mass deceive everyone, but you think we'd come a long way. You'd think that we have come a long way, but look what happened in the Iraq War. We didn't come far. They just had a big lie and they sold it, and everyone brought it, and that's that. And they tried to do it again in Syria. Didn't work this time, and that's the beauty about it. People are waking up. People are becoming more enlightened because they're not accepting the business as usual status quo anymore. They're not accepting, babies dying, chemical weapons, we've got to bomb them. What do you mean we've got to bomb them? we're going to kill a lot of people. You know, like I don't understand why that's going to be a positive thing for on the road to peace. You know, surely we can talk this out. What's that quote? Man's greatest failing as a talking animal is war. I think that's it, roundabout way. But you know, yeah, it's disgusting situation that we're still doing it and we still class it. But I think, you know, I can see the tide turning. This might be the silver bullet which fixes everything. You know, the fact that the population stand up and don't let their governments go to war anymore. This might be the thing, because in doing that, you're showing empathy for your fellow human being who you've never met, who you don't even know exists, who is over in another country, just trying to live their lives. And you're saying, no, I don't want them to get hurt. I don't want their family members to get hurt. No, I don't. Not in my name, not with my government. So if we can do that and we can relate that to war, then hopefully we can do that and relate that to poverty, starvation, malnutrition.
Or you could just do it in a different, from the opposite way, and say, it's not that I care about the people across the world, it's that I care about the people right next to me. I'm sick of having our money stolen from us to go against these bullshit causes from other people that these leaders say is worthwhile. Wasting away our money rather than spending it on people right next to me who their houses are crumbling, or, you know, things like that. So I think that it doesn't have to be about caring about people from the other side of the world. It could be caring about people right next to you and yourself, and the fact that the money that they're spending on these wars we haven't approved. Like, we don't want to approve them pissing away our money like that, especially when they're stealing it from us to start with.
Almost like that thing I read the other day. It was sort of like, you know, when Obama's tried to pass Obamacare, everyone is up in arms when, you know, what our tax dollars are going to be paid to make people better, like what to fix people, like if they're sick, or, you know, this or that. Oh, I can't believe it. No, but, you know, it's all right for the army to be in a decade-long war and for them to spend trillions after trillions after trillions of dollars bombing people. But when it comes to making sure that someone is nice and healthy and happy, you know, through insurance and through taxpayers' money, completely unacceptable. And obviously, I don't look at Americans like that. I look at the media like that. That's the way the media tries to play stuff off. They don't talk about how much the war costs and why it's so bad for the economy and why it's this. And, you know, and unfortunately, we are robots to the TV. We are programmed by the TV. Well, you know, that's what TV is called. It's called programming for a reason, because it programs a human being to think what you need to think. So
yeah, but I think the main point that I thought would come up with that question is that the difference between war now and the war in the past is that, you know, you're saying that the war now is more difficult to sell and lie about the reasons for going there because of all this social media with the truth coming out. But at least we require the lie now. At least today's, you know, the collective human moral integrity or whatever now requires that we go to war only for reasons that we think are justified. For example, helping other countries get rid of a dictator or whatever. Back in the day, I don't know, Roman times, that lie wasn't even required because we blatantly were okay with just conquering other lands for their resources or for just plain power.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, we have come a little bit of a way.
Yeah.
In terms of at least now we require that moral justification. So, yeah, I guess the more people start to look into what's going on, then the less people will start to swallow the lies that they tell us.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Okay.
Next question.
The benefits and disadvantages to globalization.
The benefits is I get cheap shit.
Mm-hmm.
But then again,
that's also a disadvantage in terms of people who.
Yeah.
But then, you know.
But then again, what's cheap? How do I know what's cheap? Maybe if there was no such thing as globalization, things wouldn't be this cheap, and I would just think that they weren't cheap. So it's sort of like, you know, the Matrix. How do they actually know what tasty chicken tastes like? You don't. It's a figment of your imagination. No, I mean, they're saying, oh, you know, we're addicted. That's the main argument. Oh, you know, the reason why there are all these, you know, for Australia, for example, is the reason why there are all these, you know, decrepit, run-down clothing, cheap clothing, you know, sweatshop fucking buildings in Bangladesh is because Australians are addicted to cheap clothing. Well, no, we're not. You know, it's just that, you know, we've been given the option for it at one point through corporations, and yeah, sure. Now our lifestyles only allow us to be able to purchase clothing at that price. Now, if it was a generic standpoint, we said, okay, all third world sweatshops are going to be shut down, at least Australia's not going to buy from it anymore, then it'll take a while to adapt, but then cheap clothing would be more expensive. And that would be that, full stop. And if they couldn't make it any cheaper in Australia through mechanisation or something like that, then, oh my God, hold the phone, people wouldn't be buying as much shit.
No, what your question really is trying to get to the bottom of is why there are different currency values for each country. Because
not at all. No, I'm not trying to get to that. I'm just saying.
That's exactly what it means. It's because the only reason why things are cheap for us is because our dollar is worth more compared to people who are making it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about that if, okay, you're telling me that's cheap, okay, in 10 years, if all those sweatshops shut down and then we were making everything in Australia, if in 10 years, then, okay, that's cheap now, but then in 10 years that would be, everything made in Australia would be cheap because I wouldn't know the difference. You know what I mean? So it's only cheap because we're getting it from there. Okay?
Yeah, because our dollar is we can buy all the stuff that they're making over there. Yeah. We can buy so much of it because our dollar is worth so much to them.
Yeah.
So the question is, why are the currencies valued different?
I mean, it sucks because they would have to find new ways to make money, but I mean, shutting all those sweatshops down would be a good thing because then that would mean that people would consume less in Australia, and I think that's a good thing. And our economy should adapt and adjust if we want sustainability. But who's going to shut down these buildings? No, they're not. I'm saying hypothetically.
But not hypothetically. How would that go about? How would you shut them down? So you're telling businesses that they're not allowed to provide
I'm saying
work.
If you're concerned, okay, with the safety of these people.
Oh, well, the safety. Okay, cool. But let's assume that the buildings are safe.
Okay.
And that people are there voluntarily, working in those sweatshops voluntarily.
Well, do we want to live
for the amount of money they're getting paid? They find it worthwhile to be there every day.
Okay. Do we want to live in a sustainable environment or don't we?
Okay, so you're talking about just consumption.
Yes.
Maybe
it's a good thing if we pay more for everything. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe we don't need cheap shit. Maybe cheap shit is a bad thing.
Yeah, but the more money you've got, the less it means to you.
The amount of clothing in fucking...
All that does is just make it harder for the poor to get what they need. Then for the people with heaps of money, it doesn't make a difference to them. That little law about making it more expensive makes no difference to people with the money to buy shit.
Maybe that would mean that people actually get out in the street and change shit. Rather than just sitting back going, I can just afford that, that's all right, I can just make it. Maybe that would start making people actually care about the world they live in. Because that's the biggest problem that we face. Everyone's too comfortable sitting on their couch.
When the resource runs out that makes these products...
That's what I'm trying to stop.
Then it'll start to become... When it starts to run out, the products will start to become more expensive.
I'm trying to have some foresight, okay? I'm trying to have some foresight. Let's not wait till it runs out. Let's fix it now. Why wait till it runs out? Why? We know it's going to run out. Everything's going to run out if we keep going the way it is. No matter what it is. We're going to fucking blot out the sun with all the fossil fuels. We're going to do whatever. It's all going to fucking run out. Okay, why don't we go, okay, it's going to run out, so let's fix it now before it runs out. No, let's just wait. Let's just make as much money as we can off it until it runs out, and then see collapse, and everyone just fucking becomes really poor.
But how do we decide what to build with the things that the finite resources? Who decides what is worthy of you using it for?
Oh, well, hopefully e-democracy. Everyone decides. Mm-hmm.
So we take a vote
Everyone.
On every product?
On everything, yeah.
On every single product that can be produced with the massive amount of resources that we have?
No. Well, I mean,
because the thing I'm worried about with all that sort of thing, I think it's fantastic to have a stock of what we do have and sort of make wiser decisions of how to use things, but I think we're forgetting about the human ingenuity that comes with getting around these problems.
I think you're thinking about this stuff in a very narrow sort of spectrum. I think if you were born into a world where someone would say, yeah, look, we don't have many different types of clothing, but I'll tell you what, we've got a lot of different types of fucking, spacecrafts you can fly around in or something like that. You know what I mean? I think that people, you'd throw up. I think, we're fucking, programmed to think in a way that we should think that, we're being hard done by if I don't have all these different styles of clothes that I should be wearing, when really, that is fucking completely insignificant when it comes to the happiness and healthiness of human beings. You know what I mean? Like, or the way we treat the environment. I don't think that we should really be too concerned.
That's not for everyone to decide. You have to let people decide that for themselves. And I think that
I think we'll get there. I think we'll get there. It just depends how many people suffer before we get there.
Yeah, but wouldn't you prefer if people made a decision about that they don't need to consume so much, and they had that sort of awakening or whatever themselves about what it is that they want, the things that they're consuming in life, it came from them, their choices and their desire for things diminished, rather than having to force these people to be guided in a certain direction.
I don't know why.
What you think
I don't
is
know. You keep bringing this up. I mean, maybe you've got a one-track mind with this forcing. I'm not saying anything is forced in any. Whenever I talk about anything changing the world, it has never ever got to do with anyone forcing anyone else to do anything.
No, but it's not. It's about the top-down approach. It's about making regulations that tweak certain things here and there because you think that people need to be guided in some certain direction in terms of life.
It's got no. Nothing I talk about is from top down. Everything I talk about is from bottom
Artificially changing the price of things is top down.
No. Everything I talk about is from bottom up. Okay.
Okay. So how do you artificially change the price of things and make it more expensive without doing it from top down?
People stop working, and then they say that's it.
Okay, so that's not artificially changing the price. You have to wait for people to want to stop working for that.
Yep.
Great, that's fine. Okay, cool. You should have said that, but you can't. I thought you meant just actually making things more expensive as a rule.
No.
Okay, so you're just talking about people not wanting to work anymore.
Because that would mean that people at the top get even more of their own way, and we don't want that.
But all you're saying is then, wouldn't it be cool if people just decided not to work anymore? It's just like saying, wouldn't it be cool if people decided that they didn't want to consume so much?
I say what we need to do is we need to stop the system. Its tracks.
So wouldn't it be cool if, the system was stopped by people deciding not to work anymore, people realising that they didn't want to consume so much anymore? Yeah, cool, that would all be great. Yeah.
Yep. Good. I'm glad we got to the bottom of that.
Yeah, but you can't control that apart from, like you said, passing on information and stuff.
That's right.
So again...
And that's where we're at the moment.
You can't change the system, you have to change the person.
Yep, which in turn will change the system.
Exactly, because people create systems.
Yeah. And systems create people.
The environment affects people, but people have minds that are able to break through things and progress and develop, and that's right. Exactly what happens and why things progress.
So vice versa. 50-50. Let's put it that way. Next.
There is no next.
There's no next.
No, there's one more next. That ties in nicely, really. Why people do... Oh, but I really wanted to say I wasn't ready for next, though. So that was all from your point of view.
Okay.
So the benefits and disadvantages of globalisation, I think that the major disadvantage from... obviously, there's major advantages in terms of we get to enjoy all the fruits of society's production from all around the world. So we get to enjoy the amazing, fruit that gets produced in Queensland. We get to enjoy that in Melbourne and around the world. We get to, enjoy the Italian food in Australia, all these cool things. Great. Yeah. But the major disadvantage, I think, is the growing distance between people's impacts on their world around them and on each other. So you don't actually know. There's such an interweaving, complicated impacts on everything that everyone's making with their purchase product choices and all that sort of thing. So you don't actually know where your food that you're buying has come from, who's affected, who whether or not you're happy with the person who the uses the treatment of the animals that farmer was using on the beef that you bought there or whatever. So it's very hard to make an informed, conscious decision about the way that you are impacting the world around you, because everything that is available to you is so distant in terms of where it's really come from. So I think, and what we need to make a better world is for people to be informed about these things so that we can only support the things that we agree with. And I think that's one of the massive disadvantages from globalisation.
Definitely.
Just like how people in China, if they were faced with the heartache and the horrific conditions of the rhinos getting killed for their powder, which creates some sort of fucking aphrodisiac, I don't know what it was.
Which is bullshit.
If the people in Asia saw the amount of awful conditions that the people mining for diamonds in Africa have to go through, would they actually buy it? Because with that product that they purchase, it might cost a certain amount of money, but it costs a certain amount of guilt if they can actually see the emotion and strain and pain on that person's face.
Absolutely.
So when the globalization removes the human element from all our purchases,
it's the same as which is why we're both anarchists. The same as politicians, put them on minimum wage. Make a politician raise a child, on minimum wage, and work fucking 2 jobs, try and make ends meet, and then see how fast the system changes. There's a disconnect, which is why we call our podcast The Connect, which creates massive disparities between wealth and a lot of the people who run these corporations are hierarchical systems of these people being born into wealth. That's another massive problem. People being born into wealth. I mean, these people are they're telling adults what to do as maids and servants, and not servants, but probably close. But they're telling these adults what to do from 4 or 5 years old. They don't have to lift a finger to do anything. They get driven around everywhere. They these people who are in families have millions, hundreds of millions, billions, the people who make decisions, people who go to the best universities on the planet and like buy their way through college and don't even have to be that smart and can do fuck up as many times as they want and and then don't have a job until they're like 35 and then they run a major corporation or they become president of the United States or they fucking that massive disconnect between them and the people that they're making judgment calls on, and they're changing lives through laws and regulations. Obviously, I don't need to talk anymore about that. You can understand, the problematic symptoms of that sort of control of a person. So, what else was I going to say? But that's about it. Yeah.
So the next question is related to that, in that it is about the job that you do and how that means everything. So how so many people are just doing what they got to do to survive, and this is, I think, something that the need to survive and the need to participate in the economic system to survive is making people do things that are against their morals or ethics, or just plain shit jobs that they, or supporting industries they don't agree with or whatever. But it's like the desperation for us to actually just be able to earn money, and there not being any other, well, not many other options. I mean, you can definitely argue you can go and find your own way, but it's hard, especially when you're locked into having to feed family or whatever, that you have to do something you don't like or don't agree with because you just need to survive. So it's really shit in that regard, and that's why I think getting rid of, it would be lovely if we had that survival sort of instinct taken out of our economic transactions and economic activity, because we would just be able to participate in the money system by out of just pure pleasure and creativity and talent, and all it would just be enjoying each other's talents rather than a cutthroat world of I need to rip you off because I need to survive. It would just be no, if you rip me off, you're just a cunt because we're all surviving here, no problem. Anyway, so I think going back to what I was saying, it's shit that people, I think what you do for a living is what you do with your time on this planet, and you can't separate what you do for a living, what your living is all about. If you want to spend your time working for, so just like with Nazi Germany, you spend your time working for Hitler, ignoring the bigger picture about what really the thing you're supporting, because you just say that, I just need to support my family. Well, yeah, of course, you can give into that, but I think it's maybe time that we started sort of taking a bit more seriously about what we are willing to support or not, and only really spending our time doing things that we truly believe in.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're just going to continue with this bullshit, and I think that's the way that maybe what you're saying can come to fruition, is if people just start to sort of have a bit higher standards and they refuse to do these shit jobs if they can be mechanised. They can look at it and go, well, I don't want to do that, and then those jobs will become, that the people have to start to pay those people more to do those shit jobs because they're so shit. If we all raise our standards, then those jobs will start paying more, and then it'll actually be worthwhile for them to become mechanised if we all just raise our standards. So then the companies will go, well, it's worth me investing in a robot to do this because people aren't going to fucking do it anymore. That's one way we can sort of push this. Yeah. So, anyway, I think that's... do you have anything to say about that?
No, I'm pretty happy.
Oh, good. Alright, well, I'm fucking glad this is the last day I get to have to spend with you.
This is the sort of thing that we have to deal with day in, day out because of our friendship. And that's what happens when you become awake. It's annoying. But at least
it's what happens when you're an opinionated asshole, like both of us. I'm not saying just you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, it's fine.
It's been good, and I'm sure that, just stay connected and like our Facebook page, The Connect. And we'll keep you up to date with all the latest information around the world and possibly some philosophical points of view you haven't thought of before.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. See ya.